Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today, I'm pretty excited to bring you guys this build, this kind of home brew that I haven't seen anywhere else. One that I've really been enjoying just like crafting and working on, and it's still somewhat of work in progress, but I really like where the list is at right now, and that's my Universe 7 Cell Surge. And if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, stick around for the video. We'll get all into detail about it. But if you guys are new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many ways to do so down in the description. But today, guys, if you want to buy any of the cards for this deck, or buy any trading card game cards for that matter, use my link in the description to TCG Player. It really does help the channel a lot, guys, and I really do appreciate it. With that being said, we'll get right into the video. So we are doing a Cell Surge deck profile, but it's definitely not your typical Cell Surge. So why are we playing this leader? Well, that'll be more relevant when we get into the U7 part in a second, but I do just want to say that this leader, one of the reasons why it's so good and why the deck surrounding it is so good, or like the more typical version and this version, is that you get to play the game in a very broken way. And what I mean by that is you get to gain advantages. In this case, your leader looks top 5, you have to pitch a card, but most of those cards you pitch do something in the drop that gains you another form of advantage. So in doing all that, you get to do that without ever having to interact with your opponent, which there have been many decks like this in the game's life cycle, like Piccolo Surge, Android 21, which is decent for a while. It's still a pretty decent rogue deck in my opinion. Shenron leaders, like just random examples like that, but those decks have been really good, Shenron and Surge Piccolo specifically, that they get to gain advantage without having to interact with the opponent. So you're not allowing your opponent to self-awaken, and in a hand control deck like this, not giving them that life is even more important. So I kind of want to just get that out of the way. But anyways, let's get into the U7 bulk of the deck. We are playing 9 Universe 7 cards. We are playing 4 Frieza Double-Edged Sword, 3 Frieza Emperor of U7, and 2 Goku Evening the Odds. Okay, so this is the Universe 7 engine of the deck. This is a Frieza Emperor of Universe 7 focused deck. You guys may remember from, I want to say almost a month ago at this point, maybe a little bit less, I did a U7 Frieza Rainbow deck profile. And ever since that, I've been just really fascinated with this boss monster. There are so many instances where I drop this guy, and it's just so hard for my opponent to win the game. I normally don't really play control decks like this. I'm much more of like a mid-range player, but for some reason, I love this boss monster. I like what it does in terms of how it limits my opponent's plays, and the art obviously is just absolutely gorgeous. So luckily for a boss monster of this power level, it's not actually that restrictive. There are some restrictions they have to abide by, like you have to pitch a U7 card to evolve this over a U7 Frieza, and your leader card has to be yellow for the permanent to take effect. Then I just kind of went and thought, what's the best yellow control leader in the game at this point, in my opinion? There are many good yellow leaders like Hell Goku, like Gohan Icarus, but those types of decks wouldn't be great for Frieza because they're just not control-y enough. And then I actually, kind of realized, it clicked in my head that the best leader for this type of deck is actually a green-yellow leader. And this is way before like multicolor was a thing, so this card doesn't specify mono yellow, so we're playing it with Cell Surge, again, where we don't have to be very interactive with our opponent. So when we play this card, it can be all that much more impactful. And it is a yellow card, so as long as you have extra copies in your hand, you can use it to awaken, which is nice. Playing 2 Goku, just because it's a green card that we can charge, and it's also a pitch for evolving for Frieza, it's got a semi-relevant effect of killing a battle card that can come up. That's kind of nice. And we're playing 4 Frieza Double-Edged Sword. So I am playing 4 of this. I bounced back between 3 copies and 4 copies. I just really don't want to be in a situation where I don't have it when I need it, and sometimes when using the leader's top 5 effect in the early game, you just have to be grabbing other cards, like your early game cards that you need to get set up. And I will say in this deck, you want to awaken on turn 4, which is a slight downside compared to typical Cell Surge, because typical Cell Surge doesn't exactly care when it awakens, but it is really nice for typical Cell Surge to awaken on 3. But this build, you do want to awaken on 4. But with this much slower format, that's actually a lot more doable. It is just a little bit rough when you run into like the aggressive deck here and there. But now that the format's a lot slower, this deck is able to get to turn 4 much more safely. So yeah, we do play the 4 Frieza. Can't really charge it, can't do much else with it except for play it and combo with it, but it is one of our main engine cards, so I am maxing out on it. It could go to 3, but for now I have it at 4. Then we have our main starter cards. So of course we have 4 Cell Dark Parasite and 4 Rubrian. Those are pretty much staple. I'm playing 4 Sand Instincts because if we don't have Rubrian on 2, we just want to be able to do something with those 2 energy, and we're not playing Giro Super Combo. So I can't really dump these cards on demand, but this ratio is working out really well for me. And I got to shout out my teammate Marcel for this one, Bardock the Eliminator. This is just a really good turn 1 play for Cell Surge to do because we don't really have much to do with our turn 1 energy now that we don't really need to play Demigod Unison. Demigod Unison was much more of a necessity when aggro decks were running rampant, but now that the game is much slower, our turn 1 can actually be used to draw. So he's almost just like extra copies of Sell the Dark Parasite. A card I was tinkering with before Bardock the Eliminator was actually Create Android, a really old 1-drop extra card that says if your leader's an android, draw 2 and then discard a card. And I was actually really liking that card because of the filter it added to the deck. Just helps you be way more consistent, but it does have the downside of being an extra card, and adding Bardock the Eliminator actually makes our Awaken more consistent. So this is a really good change that I think I like a lot, and I do have to shout out Marcel again for this one because he pretty much started playing this in Cell Surge as far as I ever saw. And then for our mid-game setup, we're playing 3 copies of Dark Broly Overwhelming Evil. So here's the thing. You want this Unison on every single turn 3, no question about it, but it kind of sucks when you dead draw like a lot of Unison. You either end up charging them or just discarding them for Dark Broly's +2, and it's kind of annoying. This is something I'm trying even with regular Cell Surge, is just playing 3 Dark Brolys, and it's one of the cards I prioritize in searching off my top 5. If I see it early game, I grab it, especially when I'm only playing 3, because you gotta have it by turn 3. This could again go to 4. I might actually cut a Parasitic Dragon Ball to play the 4th Dark Broly. The thing with that is Deborah plus Dark Broly is the most broken hand control mechanic in the game, because you're literally spending no resource to make your opponent discard a card. It's actually so insane, but you obviously have to make sure that you can actually search a Dragon Ball. I could play 2, and it kind of goes with that logic of like, you know, you play a 1-of searchable card that you just don't want to get stuck in your life, so you actually play 2 of it, and Deborah can pick Dragon Balls up from the drop. So what you can do is, you know, play Dark Broly, use Deborah, bring Dark Broly down to 2 markers, make your opponent pitch a card, and then you search your 1 of your 2 Dark Dragon Balls, and then you use your leader skill to pitch your Dark Dragon Ball for its +2, and then Deborah can just pick up that Dark Dragon Ball from the drop area on the next turn when you use another copy of it. So that's all well and good, but I do bounce back between 2 and 3 copies of the Dark Dragon Ball just to make sure that I can actually search it when I need it, but that could become the 4th copy of Dark Broly. And only 4 Charismatic Villain. If your deck's doing what it's supposed to do, your opponent's resources and options should be very limited, so I think 3 of this is okay. Generally, I'll always advocate for 4 Charismatic Villain, because just the fact you can use it on both players' turns and pop something for free every turn is insanely good. And I wouldn't mind finding space for a 4th copy, but because of that U7 engine, we are trying to cut back on a bit of space, and I think I've included the most busted cards, mainly with 4 Deborahs, because every turn after you play your Unison, you want to resolve Deborah. It's just that insane. And then for the defenses, we are playing 3 copies of Majin Buu Unadulterated Malice. Honestly, there are not many matchups where this is super necessary in nowadays, but your worst matchup is something along the lines of like Gogeta Xeno, maybe like a Red Starter Vegeta aggro deck. You do want to have them just in case you come across your bad matchup. Definitely side a 4th copy. 2 Shocking Death Ball in the main, because that Spark and Negate can just be clutch in random situations. Like if your opponent's playing even a slower turn 4 deck, but their win cons on turn 4, you have that negate if you needed to like tap out for your Dark Broly Unison, let's just say. And then 4 Defending Father Paragus, just the best super combo you can play in a deck like this. We're not playing any like green-yellow base or any green-yellow arrivals, so it is really good in that regard. And then wrapping it up, we do have the 1 Kibito Kai SCR. This could be so many different things. This could be Sin SCR. This could be Kai Spacetime SCR. This could be Heroine's Lineage. I really like Kai because it just stops all your opponent's battle cards from attacking, and that's where a lot of the aggressive decks lie. Most of their battle cards are doing the work, so I do like it. It is a bit expensive, but it does synergize nicely with your Awaken if you have to Awaken on defense, so I like it. But again, could be many different SCRs, and we are playing 2 copies of Dark Temptation Toa. Helps us make up for that hand control, where like a typical Cell Surge build might be playing like Cell's Earth Destroying Kamehameha. We don't really have that card in this deck, and we do need a battle card in play for our Frieza Double-Edged Sword, because he has to be able to minus a battle card on both players' fields, which is a way your opponent can play around your win condition. But let's be honest, your opponent's going to put battle cards in play. That's how they have to usually play and win the game. So you put this battle card in play for free, then you can use Double-Edged Sword. You can also do that with like Charismatic Villain and some other battle cards in the deck you can set up to minus both players' battle cards for Double-Edged Sword. But anyways, that's the deck in its entirety. Just some thoughts on it. I really like this deck. I think it's actually a really creative build where it uses some really strong engines to do some powerful things. I do think it's just a little worse than typical Cell Surge, because typical Cell Surge can still be really oppressive on its own. You don't really need the Frieza engine, but I will say when I do successfully drop the Frieza engine, it does usually tilt the game in my favor, like really heavily. Blue is the one matchup where it's a bit iffy, and blue is pretty popular, but I would say from last weekend's events, the color spread was relatively even, where like most colors are being played in some relevant capacity. So there are going to be a lot of matchups where freeze is really good. One more thing I will say though is that when you're not actually able to successfully drop the chain on turn 4, like let's just say you're missing a piece, which doesn't really happen all that often with this build being as consistent as it is, but like for example, if you're not able to awaken on 4, that's really annoying because then you can't get your 2 energy back to actually play the Frieza chain. So yeah, I do think this build is really good. I think it's maybe just a little worse than regular Soul Surge, but even then, if your opponent's playing a lot of anti-hand control answers, you have another win condition to fall back on. I think it's really cool. Try it out. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.